It's a Purple Friday around these parts, wherever you are. Thanks for being with us. November 22nd, week 12 of this NFL regular season began last night, and we are going to talk about it right off the top of the show because it had major significance for the AFC North division. Sarah, welcome inside the vault. It's a Friday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. I'm Bobby Trossett, joined as always by my co-host, Sarah Ellison. And while it's a Purple Friday, there's actually white stuff falling from the sky right now, Sarah. I'm not sure what's going on out in your neck of the woods.
Well, you saw the game last night.
I know what happened in Cleveland for sure, and you're not far down the road. And if Baltimore is getting flurries right now, I can only imagine. I know I saw Justin Holt in the live chat, is up in Pennsylvania. It's coming down in droves up there, upstate New York where I'm from, and certainly Columbus as well. So, yeah, look, so much for that 2-game cushion. It's now been trimmed to 1 because of Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns prevailing over the Pittsburgh Steelers, snapping their win streak, Sarah.
Bobby, last night I was like, do I need to stay up for this game? Should I stay up for this game? I got to get up at 6 a.m. I don't know if it's going to be worth it. Jameis Winston throws that pick late in the fourth, and I'm like, oh, this is what it has to be like cheering for the Browns, just knowing that the Browns are going to brown. But I stuck with it. And the Browns played spoiler again, Bobby. First, they played spoiler against the Ravens. We've had to hear nonstop about how one of the Ravens' losses is to the lowly Browns. Well, nobody knows AFC North football quite like the AFC North. Bobby, that was such a fun game to watch. I'm glad I stayed up. You can see on the screen how it started. Beautiful green grass, a beautiful football weather, but then it became better football weather. All the snow everywhere, how it happened, how it ended. I don't even know how the quarterbacks or the receivers could see the ball in the air. That was so much fun to watch. I don't think I've ever cheered for the Browns so hard in my life.
I got to tell you, too, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to see eye to eye with anybody who didn't feel like last night was majestic, magical, and everything great about this time of year when it comes to the sport of football. I mean, come on. Look at the Browns players celebrating, led by Jameis. Who's even in this photo? It's Browns players. Jameis was doing this with the post-game Amazon crew, Snow Angels on the field after this one. And as you tweeted, apparently Cleveland loves playing spoiler in the AFC North. So here is a look at the standings through 12 weeks, at least through 12 weeks if you're Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Baltimore still got more work to do. Cincinnati still has more work to do, but Pittsburgh still atop this division at 8-3, Ravens 7-4, Cincy 4-7, and Cleveland 3-8. What a game and what a freaking environment out there. Who wants dome stadiums in Cleveland? Come on, you wouldn't be able to have the magical nature, the magical spectacle that was last night.
No, it was so good. And here's what's so funny about the AFC North, Bobby. The Steelers, this is all recent. The Steelers have owned the Ravens. The Ravens have owned the Bengals. The Bengals have owned the Browns, and the Browns are now owning the Steelers. The Browns did a solid for the Ravens for what the Ravens couldn't get done a few days ago. And so, Bobby, I think this morning it would only be appropriate, okay? Because we've been drowning over here in Baltimore since that loss. We've been having to talk about and cover how the Steelers just stopped the Ravens in the tracks, their offense, and how things have been going. We've been talking about Tomlin out coaching Baltimore. Well, you know what? There were some meltdowns in Pittsburgh also. And why wouldn't you want to hear about that in Baltimore? Why wouldn't you want to hear about the meltdowns happening in Pittsburgh, especially coming off of last week? So, Bobby, for those that do not know, the Steelers, Bobby has now disappeared, but we'll wait for him to come back in. He took the slides with him. No. Hold on. Let me bring the slides left with you.
Sheesh, did they ever? Yeah. I'm telling you, it's bizarre neighborhood things going on with these flurries. The lights are flickering. There's a lot happening right now in Baltimore, but your slides are in.
Okay, well, I'm going to pull them in separately just in case you go out again, since things sound a little bit unpredictable over there. But bringing this back in. Okay, so as I was saying, Bobby, you interrupted the joy of Baltimore as we're discussing this from the Steelers.
I'm watching BGE emergency trucks go out my window to the right, by the way. So let's see how Let's see how this live stream goes today, folks.
We'll make it through. We can get through the snow if the Browns can. All right, the Steelers have never won a road divisional Thursday night football game. Bobby, one of my co-coaches for basketball, he's a massive Steelers fan, was rubbing it in last night during our practice last night, just rubbing it in. But he knew this stat, and he's like, I have a bad feeling about tonight. And boy, was he right. That streak continues. Now look at this. Remember how last week, Bobby, we were covering nonstop about how Tomlin outcoached John Harbaugh with the timeouts and the coach management. Well, that was true. But you want to know what else is true? Well, now Pittsburgh is kicked off with Tomlin. Look at these headlines. Post-Gazette, after strong start to season, Mike Tomlin deserves blame for Steelers' frustrating loss to Browns. Steelers Mike Tomlin, this is from CBS Sports. Steelers Mike Tomlin no longer coach of the year favorite after questionable decisions versus Browns. Sports Illustrated, Steelers fans irate over Mike Tomlin's clock management before halftime versus the Browns, and then go into their fan base. This is Amanda Vance. Bobby, she's a big influencer, big Pittsburgh fan. She has like 500,000 followers each on Instagram and on TikTok. She put up a video last night. She's calling for Mike Tomlin to be fired. All right. So this is not only a Baltimore thing, because, and here's what was questioned down the stretch, according to everybody in Pittsburgh. First of all, this one was really bad. Mike Tomlin burned his second time out of the game, Bobby, after that 45-yard touchdown by the Browns, when the clock was already stopped. The clock was already stopped, and he used a timeout. Okay. Then, remember, he went back and forth on that penalty. He didn't know whether to accept it or not accept it. He declines it, then he accepts it, then he declines it. He keeps going back and forth. He defended that because he was asked nonstop questions in his press conference about it. But according to the media, they felt like, or some of the fans, they felt like he should have declined it to maybe force them to kick a field goal instead of forcing them to go for it, which ended up as a touchdown. So that hurt him. And then Pittsburgh media were saying that he should have told his defense to let Chubb score. Instead, they brought him down. Now it's Pittsburgh's defense, so maybe they were playing for hey, we can keep him out of the end zone. But after that, he couldn't use another timeout because he only had one left, and he wanted to use it on offense. So the Browns, the next play, Chubb was able to score, but they were also able to take the clock from 143 to 57. So there's that part of the meltdown, Bobby. Then, if you didn't notice, while the play was still going on, the Hail Mary part from the Steelers, notice what I've got circled there. George Pickens gets into a fight as the play's not over. Play's not over. And it ends like this. Who is that? Is that Newsom? Who has
Newsom was tweeting post game about this, so I don't know if it was him or not. I didn't stay up for the second half.
Oh, you didn't see the ending?
I didn't stay up for the second. I was asleep. I was listening to it in my sleep.
Oh, I know how that is, where you fall asleep to it. Yeah. Okay. And then George Pickens afterwards, not happy in his locker room presser. He says the conditions played a huge part in today's game. I really don't think the Browns are a good team at all. I mean, the Ravens feel the same way, but here's the thing. The Browns are the class of the AFC North. They just can't beat anybody else. If this was a only in division type thing, then the Browns would be at the top. But fortunately, it's more than that. So they're melting down over there in Pittsburgh, Bobby, after that Thursday night game.
I kind of love the drama coming off last night. There was a lot going on in that game. And by the way, I think the comment of the day comes in here from Ashley Blosser in our live chat, who says, referring to Mike Tomlin, wait, did he burn his own house down? That's referencing something that we pulled up from yesterday, right? You went back to a tweet that was out there from Patrick Peterson about recounting a story that Tomlin told his team about John Harbaugh and the Ravens.
Yeah.
Oh, Ashley, well done there. Well done. But yeah, this was a game that obviously has and had major implications. And ultimately, Cleveland gets the best of Pittsburgh. And this was kind of why I think one of the many reasons why I was and remain skeptical in terms of the Steelers being potential Super Bowl contenders. They have a gauntlet down the stretch. 6 of their last 8 games, as I've mentioned, are against AFC North opponents. And so to me, they still have a lot more to prove. And while weather was absolutely a factor last night, and certainly you want to be home in a game like last night, so the Browns had that on their side, this looked like a Steelers team that offensively isn't capable of hanging with the AFC elites, but as they've shown against their bitter rival, they are capable of hanging with the Ravens, even if it is because of the Ravens' self-inflicted wounds being the difference. I think we're all kind of in universal agreement there, at least coming off of last weekend.
Well, and before we completely move on, so that's the Cleveland side of it, but how do we not just enjoy Jameis Winston? Okay. I don't know, you were asleep for this part, but it was like 4th and 6 inside the red zone, and he's trying to get them to jump off sides.
Yeah.
And so you can hear him be like, down, said, huh? You know, doing the whole thing, just like going over. And then finally at the end, he's like, someone jump off sides, down.
Yeah.
It was so funny. And then Bobby, I didn't see this till after the game, but you have to watch this pregame little interview.
Oh, I've seen this one. I've seen it. Let everybody else see it.
Let everyone else see it. And if you've already seen it, we all want to watch it again. Check this out.
You don't become a Brown until you beat the Steelers. What will it take tonight?
The horse is prepared for battle, but victory comes from the Lord. So I'm dependent on the Lord.
Weather conditions tonight. We're expecting winds up to 15 miles per hour in a wintry mix. How will that impact your ability to throw the ball?
I am so happy and grateful that the Lord has blessed me to play in some snow, to be in true football weather in Cleveland, Ohio, at Huntington Bank Field today to give him the glory. It's a beautiful day.
Sure feels like you're playing in the AFC North.
It is. It's magical. Thank you.
Bobby, I'm told on social media that he said the same thing before the Ravens win. I mean, like going back and looking back and seeing how ready he was and how hype he was. It was like this game was over before it even started. Like he just knew. He just knew. The horse is prepared for battle, but victory comes from the Lord. For those that don't know, that is Proverbs 21:31. And Bobby, that joy that he had was nonstop. Like at the end, because the game was on Amazon Prime, he's like, "I ordered a win on Amazon Prime."
I ordered a dub. I ordered a dub.
I ordered a dub. I mean, he was just so happy. And then Myles Garrett, on top of it, he was feeling himself. He had a post-game interview. And they were, asking him about, he had a message for TJ Watt. Let me just put it that way. He said,
well, there was a lot of chatter too. The context
about
to it
who's
leading
better,
into
right?
the weekend. There was a lot of noise online leading into the week. Again, perennial candidates for Defensive Player of the Year, TJ and Myles. And so because of some of that chatter, clearly it was on Myles' mind in his post-game press conference. And so just Ari here transcribing what he told Amazon in the postgame, which was, hey, I got a lot of respect for him, meaning TJ, but I'm number one. That's from Edge 1 to Defensive Player of the Year. I'm the guy. That runs through me. And Sarah, again, speaking to this majestic feel, snow is flying down on him. He's got snowflakes all over his head during this interview, and he's just straight-faced talking like, don't disrespect my name. There was no disrespect. It's just good. It's just one of ones. You can't lose with either one of these guys. The Ravens know everything about both of them. They haven't been able to stop either one of them this year. But look, I just thought it was such a testament. And here it is right now. It's funny. McAfee is literally lockstep with us right now. I got ESPN on the same time that you had Jameis's postgame or pregame. It was on, and now they got Myles on right now. And so what I'm looking at right now is literally he's getting pelted with snowflakes, but he's just straight-faced looking into the camera saying, no. What I did tonight, I'm standing on it.
Yeah. No, what's funny is he ended with 3 sacks and TJ Watt had 0. So he had room to talk. So Bobby, look, at the end of the day, you would prefer the Ravens to do their own work, right? You would wanted the Ravens to beat the Steelers. You would have wanted the Ravens to beat the Browns. But this is the nature of the NFL. It is a parity league. This is the nature of the AFC North. Records, you throw it out the window. There's no disrespectful loss in the AFC North. You just know each other too well.
Yeah.
And there's beasts on every single team. Every single team. So the fact of the matter is this is why you can't get too high or get too low. Listen, we're getting pretty high today. We're getting pretty high off of this because it's been a miserable week. So we're going to take our joy where we can get it. And what's most important, though, is now, as you said, the Ravens are a game behind the Steelers. If they were able to perform on Monday Night Football, and we're going to transition to that soon, if they're able to perform on Monday Night Football and get a win, then they're only a half game behind, with the Ravens still having to play both the Steelers and Browns coming up. Yep. So loved the Browns last night. I will return after today to hating them as an AFC North division rival, especially in Week 17 if playoff seating's on the line. But for today, I appreciate you, Cleveland.
Hey, and we can always appreciate Myles Garrett's game too, just because of the game record that he is. Don't forget, while he had TJ's number last night, even though they don't face each other directly, TJ is the only player in NFL history to lead the league in sacks 3 separate seasons. So both of these guys are just ridiculous one-of-one talents that the Ravens are going to have to see again before the end of this year, to your point. Super chats are coming in. We've got Kris Rhim. I failed to mention this off the top. ESPN Chargers reporter with a Baltimore background in terms of previous work history. He'll be joining us in 8 minutes for right now for a Los Angeles perspective ahead of Monday night. Chef Trez hit us with our first super chat. We've got 5 of them thus far. We appreciate you guys for being with us on this Purple Friday. And Chef writes, it feels great seeing Pittsburgh lose, but man, it sucks watching the Browns put an effective game plan together and not panic for all 60 minutes. Jang writes, Pittsburgh's loss truly made my night. Thank you, Cleveland. A-Rod says, I find it funny that the referees can see a false start in a dang blizzard, but can't see one on the Chiefs the whole month of September when the weather is clear. Look, as long as Jawan Taylor's out there, Sarah, you're not going to see anything. That's what they've proven. I know in recent weeks they've shorted up a little bit with Kansas City in recent weeks. 7G Phil says, haha, Steelers suck. Just had to say that, and he paid $2 to do so.
To get it out there.
Makta Mahari says, I'm usually at work during your live stream, but I'm glad I'm able to catch you guys live today. I love my Ravens. Let's go. We appreciate you for being here. Glad you could be. Okay, so there's endless ties.
You froze for a second. I thought we lost you again for a second. There we go. Sorry, you're back.
Who knows? I'm telling you, there's a lot of activity going on outside right now. And I should say, 2 days this week, I woke up at night, went to my usual pee break, went back to check the phone. Wi-Fi's down. The entire place is down. Okay. Totally.
Tell us you had a break. You didn't need to tell us the kind of break you were taking.
Well, not to get too into the weeds here, but post kidney stones, haven't been able to hold it as I once was able to. All right. That's the reality of it. I'm telling you.
You are one of the most transparent people I know. Like you just put it out there.
What mid-20s dude, total side note, we really got to go. But what mid-20s dude suffers kidney stones at like 26 or 27 years old? That was me.
I'm sorry that happened to you. I know it's tough because my father in his 80s had that.
In his 80s. Yes. Thank you so much. Oh, goodness.
Oh, well, let's transition.
Just an epic transition here.
Geriatric. Oh my gosh.
Here we go, Chef.
Today. Chad is on fire today.
You know, Chef is going to take any opportunity to do that.
Bobby Blunt.
Unreal.
Bobby TMI.
Yes, as usual. Zone says, change up your diet, Robert. Well, I'll have you know that I don't go anywhere without the Yeti because a lot of it had to do with, I'm being serious, a lot of it had to do with the lack of hydration. So for what it's worth, happy Friday to everybody. Okay. All right. As we transition, there are endless ties between the Ravens and Chargers, as we know, whether it be past coaching staffs, personnel, the brothers, the Hardball Bowl. We know all of this that's coming up on Monday night. We also know that Lamar won his first MVP in his first season as a full starter. You got to go back to 2019, and that was also when his play caller was a guy by the name of Greg Roman. Of course, heavily known and remembered within the fan base for better or for worse. Lamar made some headlines, I guess probably more so within the fan base yesterday, when Jonas Schaefer of the Baltimore Banner asked him this question about how he looks back at his time with Giro. And of course, that video left just a second ago when I left on accident. So let me just pull it up in 1 second. And here is Lamar Jackson talking about his former offensive play caller, Greg Roman, who, as many of you know, is now exactly that for Jim and the Chargers.
How do you kind of look back at your time with Giro?
It was good. I mean, we had a lot of success. Won my first MVP with Giro system. We had a lot of great seasons. I believe it was just short. It was just short, that's all.
Everybody's thinking what we're thinking. It was a deafening pause, a long pause. Sarah was doing the count on her fingers. How many? 4?
I'd say 4.5. I almost made it to 5. My very scientific finger counting.
Okay. So Torrey Smith quote tweeted you and said something along the lines of, he's just processing, nothing to see here. Many others in the fan base thought that it was a conflicted kind of answer. 4 seconds is 4 seconds. It was a little awkward.
4.5.
It was definitely deafening. If silence can be deafening, that was an example of it. He did go on to say the following, as you heard. It was good. We had a lot of success. I won my first MVP with Giro's system. We had a lot of great seasons. Sarah, as you're watching that unfold, how silent was it?
Listen. Okay. When I watched that live, did not know it was coming. I felt awkward inside because I was like, oh, say something, Lamar, say something, because of the context of the conversation around Greg Roman and Lamar Jackson. Like, he obviously in Giro's system, as Lamar said, won an MVP. You can't hate that. Can't be upset about that. That's great. 2019 was such a ride until it wasn't, right? Just such a fantastic, beautiful ride until it wasn't. And so you have that context, and there's already people kind of speculating, like when Todd Monken first came here, it just seemed like Lamar was so happy with some of the changes. He was talking about how funny and loud Todd Monken is, talking about getting keys to the car, just being empowered. You know what I mean? And so here's the thing with Lamar. I think he's cool with everybody. Like, I honestly don't think he's got like any bad blood with Greg Roman. I don't think he's got any, ill feelings towards him. Do I feel like he enjoys this offense that he has now under Todd Monken better? Absolutely. But because of how Greg Roman left, where he was let go and the fan base was just over him for a year or two before he was let go, with that context, you wanted to see a Lamar. Bobby, remember last week when they were asking him about, was it Geno Stone? Because Geno Stone, yeah, and Lamar's like, oh, man, that's my guy. We came in together. We were this. That's my boy.
That was Deshaun Elliott.
Oh, it was Deshaun Elliott. My bad. Okay, just wrong safety. He's like, yeah, that was my boy. And he's like got this big smile. And he didn't talk forever. He didn't say a ton. But it was the smile on his face. It was how, he jumped into the comment. There was, body language, and his smile said so much more than him saying, oh, we came in together, and that's my guy. You know what I mean? It was the body language. And so in this one, maybe Torrey Smith is right that he was processing, but he didn't need to process for some other people. He doesn't need, you know what I mean? He didn't need a process. So that's the point, is the processing is the point. And so when you're watching it live and you've never seen it before, you're just like, oh, please say something. For Giro's sake, say something, So it was an awkward long pause. And I think it said a lot. I think he's cool with Giro, but I think that he knew he outgrew that system and it was time to move on. And it's not like they were the best buds ever, So the processing is the point, and that's why it was so awkward in my point of view.
I tend to agree with you as well. And at the same time, I always like to acknowledge what they did accomplish together, because it was pretty historic and they did take the NFL by storm. I know you acknowledge this as well. Of course, how could you not in 2019? I mean, Lamar set the world on fire. They set rushing records as a team. He did so individually, breaking the previous record held by Michael Vick for single season rushing yards by a quarterback. And of course, they were the top overall seed. And while they didn't get it done in January, and the following year it was disappointing as well against Buffalo. And clearly, to your point, Lamar had outgrown the system in which Greg was working under and working with, there were other parts to the story as well, like the lack of investment in free agency dollars at the wide receiver position and just not having a sophisticated enough, to use Steve Young's words, passing attack. And I think the hiring of Todd Monken unlocked all of that. And here we sit. And I tell you what, there's somebody who just popped up into the live chat that knows a whole lot about what Greg Roman has now burst back onto the NFL scene and had some success with in Los Angeles. Of course, it's the Jim Harbaugh era. That began this offseason after a great tenure at Michigan, his alma mater. He hires Greg Roman. You got Jesse Minter in the building and a slew of other former Ravens that are now Chargers, and they're playing some good football, and that's why we want to bring in today's guest, which is ESPN Chargers reporter Kris Rhim. He does have some Baltimore background in him as well, so looking forward to getting into that conversation and a whole lot more. Kris, welcome inside the vault. It's great to have you here with us, and as we always like to start with, what is the state of the 7-3 Los Angeles Chargers entering Monday Night Football?
Yeah, glad to be here, and the state is excitement. I think there's a lot of excitement for the Chargers that there hasn't been here, probably ever. This is a team that's kind of struggled for relevance in a crowded sports market with a lot of stars. There's, LeBron, there's Shohei Ohtani, there's Mike Trout, there's, and now you have Jim Harbaugh. So I think there's excitement, right? They have their own superstar and they're good.
Kris, nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us. Never met you before, but I appreciate you being here with us. I saw you wrote an article the other day about how Jim Harbaugh, in such a short period of time, has been able to just turn things around. Can you kind of take us into that article a little bit and how he's been able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the players described Jim kind of as someone who, when he got here, he basically created, coaches demand things of players and they want players to do certain things, but Jim kind of created an environment where players want to do the things that he's demanding versus him asking them to do it, if that makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. And you can even see when you have press conferences, right, the guys are talking like Jim. It's kind of strange a little bit, right? Not strange, but I guess it just is what it is, right? Like they're saying, I think Ladd McConkey said the other day, we were at our best when our best was needed. And I was like, oh my God. And then, they'll say it was an enthusiasm unknown to mankind or something.
Who's got it better than us?
Yeah, who's got it better than us? It's like all the things, right? And I think it starts with that. Like guys are really believing in him and believing what he's saying. And when you win, it's easy to do that, right? But there's also this idea of like, he said in his first press conference, right? Like, don't let the powder blues fool you, right? Like this is a soft franchise, right? It's known for passing. It's not known for the AFC North kind of, or even the 49ers brand of ball that Jim Harbaugh is used to playing, right? And I think this team believes that they are tough. And it hasn't been a tough team historically, right? It's kind of been a team with really cool uniforms. So I think that's how he's changed it.
Kris, you can't talk about the Chargers, obviously, without their franchise quarterback, Justin Herbert. And it's been a tumultuous career for him, just in terms of the lack of stability and some of the dysfunction that he's had to kind of play through. And now Jim comes in, and obviously he has just spoke so glowingly of his QB1 any chance that he gets, making headlines this week referring to him as one of the best of all time. Of course, that made its way into the Ravens flock community as well, because it was kind of the next question was related to Lamar, and he kind of compared the two of them and whatnot, and clearly just building up his guy. But I guess the question is, one, what has led to this Justin Herbert rejuvenation in your mind, and how has Jim unlocked him thus far? Yeah,
man, it's Jim has told the line of affection and obsession with Justin. It's I want to trade jeans with Justin. It's I'm trying to think what Beast Herbert. I want to be best friends with Justin. If you don't like Justin, something's wrong with you. And it's pretty funny because Justin is the complete opposite of that. Like Justin does not want any, the last thing he wants is attention on him. Like it's literally what he hates. He talked about it on Wednesday. He said, in it started because in the offseason, Jim Harbaugh had the equipment staff create a gold jersey for Justin so that the defense understood that, okay, the guys wearing, because the quarterbacks would always wear a different color, but they wouldn't wear gold. And he basically said, the guys that are in the white jerseys, right, stay 2 yards away from them. But the guy in the gold jersey, make that 2.5, 3 yards. And Justin hated that. he asked Jim if they could switch, and Jim said no. And ever since then, he's put Justin in these uncomfortable spots, right, to talk. They do wise words after practice. He'll make Justin speak. Or after the Tennessee Titans win, for example, Jim gave a speech, and then he says, before we say who's got it better than us, and then he pauses and he says, Justin, just speak to us. And then Justin's like, great job, guys. So it's like it's a funny relationship, and I think in terms of a personality perspective, I think Justin's always been the same guy. People kind of describe him as like a shy and nervous person. I think he just has been coming into his own, right? And Jim is giving him, playful nudges, almost like a uncle or something, a loving uncle would, to make you become more of yourself, right? And on the field, you're seeing that, right? Like, this is first 4 games of the season, Justin had career lows in passing yards, completions, attempts, and he had a high ankle sprain. So I think there was some concern of, who is this, the new version, or what has happened to Justin Herbert? But since the bye week, he's been playing some of the best football of his career, and he's running a lot more. He's playing with like a confidence and a swagger that, I haven't seen since I've been here. Like, it's, against the Titans, he ran for a first down and he got hit pretty hard. And the guys ran to, the offensive line and concerned, because he's at the bottom of this carnage. And when the pile cleared up, Justin was at the bottom of the pile with his arm pointed for a first down. So it's like, I think he's feeling himself this year. I think it's definitely a resurgence since the bye week, and it's the kind of player that made Jim Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz take the job.
Okay, we got to talk about Greg Roman. We were talking about him right before you came on, talking about Lamar's kind of awkward pause when he was asked about Greg Roman. I'm super curious as to how he's fitting in. Obviously phenomenal run game coordinator. But I was curious how he would fit in with Justin. I'm sure Jim has his influence, but how is Greg doing so far? And do you feel like he's I guess just doing a good job? How's he fitting in?
Yeah, I think Greg so far I think Greg's been doing a good job. I mean, I think the first few weeks of the season, right? Like from week 2 to week 6, I believe, the Chargers hadn't scored a touchdown in the second half. And it was the longest stretch since the 2022 Ravens where Greg was the offensive coordinator, right? So I think the Chargers, I think Greg has, when he came, I'll start it this way. When he came here, right, like Greg has said, imagine Justin Herbert with a rushing offense, and we're going to run the ball, and we're going to beat teams down, and this, that, and the third. And I think fans are really concerned about what that meant for Justin and what that meant for the offense. But obviously they hired a guy like Mark Trestman to help, this passing game. And you've really seen that this season, right? Like since Justin's come back from injury, they've passed so much, like almost to their detriment at times. Like, I'm not sure if you watched that Cincinnati Bengals game, in the second half, they go 3 and out, fumble, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, because they're passing and the defense is on the field. So I think that it's been a different Greg Roman that I think Ravens fans are probably surprised to see in terms of how much they're throwing the ball. I think their second half issues are a real concern. Even that Bengals game, like I said, I think they scored 10 points in the second half, and that touchdown came late from J.K. Dobbins. Like their second half offense has been a real issue. When they have a big, they in most of their wins, they get up big, and then the team inches back closely as the second half goes on because the offense essentially can't put the game away. So I would say he's done a good job, and surprising. He's been a surprise in terms of how he's called this offense and how much they've passed. But the second half has been concerning.
Chris, Kyle Hamilton spoke yesterday, Ravens safety, on what it's going to be like to go up against, of course, the Gus Bus and JK, somebody that two guys that he knows very well. And he said, I think before the game, you think about it maybe once or twice, but while you're playing, it's just nameless, faceless opponents. I'll ask you this. I think everybody's wondering, because a lot of highlights have certainly suggested that J.K. Dobbins has got that step back. Like, there's no hitch in his giddy up as there once was last year, especially when he came back from the scope a couple years ago. He's obviously been banged up in recent years. What is this run game looking like? And how do you think Dobbins has recovered fully from that knee injury?
Yeah, I think JK looks probably like how many Ravens fans expect him to look when he's healthy, right? It just, unfortunately, he was, struggled to be healthy in Baltimore, right? I don't know if anyone ever had questions about if JK was good, right? It's just it was hard for him to stay on the field. And I think another thing that plays into JK is like, I don't know if he ever really wanted to leave Baltimore, right? I think he had a fun time there. I think he enjoyed the city. I think he enjoyed the culture of the team. And, coming to LA, he talked about, having something to prove and wanting to prove that he wasn't damaged goods at this point in his career, right? JK is like 25,
Yeah.
But it feels like he's like 30, because of how, how much often he's been hurt and all that. But you look at the games, right? And JK is going to find the hole if the hole is there, or even if it takes a second for it to get there, he'll bounce it back. He's been one of the league's best backs, as he always is when he's healthy, right? And I think where Gus has come along, Gus spent a couple weeks on injured reserve with an ankle injury. But in the Cincinnati game against Cincinnati Bengals, Gus was the Chargers' best back in the first half before, JK ended the game on that run, right? But they're that perfect mix of, power and elusiveness, right? Like, I think in the fourth quarter of these games, the Chargers are built to wear teams down. That's kind of why their second halves have been surprising, that they haven't been able to put teams away like you would expect. Like, as you guys have watched Gus, right? Like, and now watching Derrick Henry, right? Like, no one wants to tackle a guy like that in the fourth quarter, like, it's not fun to tackle like a tight end at running back, like just barreling down, the A gap or. So I think JK and Gus definitely have been motivated this season, and want to prove that they are still, those guys. And I think JK has definitely done that.
Chris, can you kind of give me a vibe? So there's 16 former Ravens in the Chargers franchise right now, between the front office, the coaching staff, and the players. Do you get a feeling like, are they just trying to keep it? I'm sure they're trying to keep it professional, and it's like, this is like any other game. But do you get the feeling that there's like a underneath kind of feeling? Obviously, Jim wants to beat his older brother. He's 0-2 against his brother in the head-to-head coaching. You've got Ortiz. I mean, you've just got, obviously, I'm talking about Dobbins. Do you feel like there's a little something extra this week going on inside that building to want to beat almost like a big brother Ravens? Oh,
for sure. Yeah. And the coaches are going to lie at the podium, right? Like, they don't, and they're going to, for good reason, for their perspective, right? Like, they don't want to give anyone bulletin board material. They don't want to give anyone an advantage. So, Jim's not going to say, at his press conference, he kind of said, the players and push towards that. Right. But no, we know what this is. And I think everyone knows, and the players do a lesser job hiding it than the coaches, right? Like, they talk about it. Justin talked about wanting to win for Jim. And I think the Ravens beat Jim in the preseason too, when he was at the 49ers. So I think he's 0-3 against John. And I bet you he doesn't forget that either.
Yeah.
So I this is definitely a game, because, now some of the Ravens that are here are people who, left for positions, right? Like Joe Ortiz or, a Chad Alexander, right? Like, these are people who, they weren't pushed out of the organization by any stretch of the imagination. But there are some people who were castaways, right? So I think those people, like a J.K. Dobbins, even like a Hayden Hurst, and players like that, definitely want to prove that maybe, that you miss me, right? Like, or do you miss me? So
You should miss me.
yeah, you should miss
Yeah.
me. So there's definitely motivation, because for that fact too, but also the fact, like, just from a pure football perspective, right? Like, if the Chargers win this game, I think they go from a team that people don't expect much of if they make the playoffs to a team that people expect possibly to win a playoff game, because this is a Ravens team that people expect to contend for a title, right? And if you beat them in front of, we know the kind of sway that primetime games have on the national conversation. So not only is it a big game because of how motivated, the 16 people in the organization are, as you said, Sarah, but it's also big implications for where this team can go this year.
Kris, it's a little bit early. Obviously, we're live on a Friday, which is technically a Thursday in the Monday Night Football week calendar. It's a little bit early to look at the injury report, but because it's so deep and there are a couple significant names on here, we'd love to get your feel for how you think this is going to shake out entering the weekend. I mean, you got names like Khalil Mack, who are on here as a limited designation Thursday. You got Ladd McConkey, who popped up as a DNP. Their stud rookie wide receiver that you mentioned earlier on. Perryman at linebacker was a DNP. Cam Hart, who Kyle Hamilton has some Notre Dame blood with, has been playing some good corner for LA, was a DNP. So and that's just to name a few on the list. Anything notable that you think is on here based on past weeks and concerns that you have just in terms of availability going into Monday night?
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously the biggest concern on this list is Ladd and Khalil Mack. Ladd injured his shoulder against the Bengals. He played through it, and we haven't gotten any indication that is an injury that'll keep him out Monday, right? But again, like I said, Jim Harbaugh would not give us that indication until he absolutely has to give us that indication, right? So he's not going to tell us if it's bad or anything of that sort. Khalil, he's dealing with groin strains to both groins. He said in the Cleveland Browns game, it's a very painful injury. One he hasn't felt in his career. He said, but I will say this is an estimated injury report, but Khalil has been a DNP for essentially the last 2 weeks. So him being limited is a good sign for his status for Monday. And Denzel Perryman has also been dealing with injuries for a while. So he's missed practices but hasn't missed a game. So I don't think there's concern there. But the biggest concern would be Ladd. Like if Ladd doesn't play, that would be a big hurt because he's emerged as, Justin's top target and I think the Chargers' best receiver.
All right, Kris, we'll get you out of here on this. What matchup are you most watching on Monday night? Monday night. And do you have a score prediction of and who's going to win? Okay,
the matchup I'm watching most on Monday night is I think I really would like to see I guess Jesse Minter versus Todd Monken, right? If that is a matchup, the Ravens offense versus the Chargers defense. I think last week against the Bengals was a test. This is another test, a better offense. Perhaps the league's best offense against a defense that I think a lot of people have questions about because of the talent that they've played. So this will be. I'm looking to see what Jesse Minter schemes up, how he looks to stop that Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson monster that is the Ravens. And then my prediction, I think I'll say Ravens 23-19.
Okay.
Going low scoring.
Well, defensive game here.
Yeah,
okay.
That might be a scoregami. Hopefully not. I don't know.
I tell you what, too, and I hope I can. You mind if I sneak one more in as well? Or are you up against the clock, Kris? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
I felt like it was heavily focused on the ties, which obviously need to be discussed, the offense, the quarterback, the head coach. But this is a stingy defense, and you see the rankings right here through 11 weeks. I mean, they're top 10 or around it in just about every single category the Chargers are. So, Sarah and I took a close look through Warren Sharp's analysis earlier in the week in terms of just how zone heavy they are in Jesse Minter's approach. But I got to wonder, will they deviate away from what's become sort of their calling card? Because Lamar's going to pick that thing apart. And then I think as well with their – they also play a ton of too-high safety. But you better believe that this game's going to be one in the trenches in terms of both these teams are going to run. I mean, they're going to try to rush for 200 yards plus on each one of these guys. It's going to be so much fun, the time of possession. Who is going to win the time of possession battle? And I just got to wonder how you think this Chargers defense matches up.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to see it, man, because, we haven't seen the Chargers' worst. Their most frustrated defensive game this season was against the Arizona Cardinals, and that was James Conner. James Conner ran all over them. He broke. They missed a bunch of tackles. He kind of had his way, right? And James Conner is a similar style back to Derrick Henry, right? I think people would probably say Derrick Henry is, probably a better version of James Conner, right? They've done well against other, top backs. Alvin Kamara didn't get off, or Nick Chubb's come back from injury, but he didn't get off. But I think, I'm eager to see if they fix those tackling issues, if they can wrap up the kind of powerful, big, strong, and elusive back that Derrick Henry is. But the Chargers have really found success in stopping the run this season with light boxes because of Poona Ford, right? Like, they signed Poona Ford in the offseason, their defensive tackle, a guy who has been playing the best ball of his career, right? And he's really been able to stop the run. He's also been fifth in pass rush win rate. So like you said, they've been able to have freedom defensively on the backside because of what they're doing up front, along with Khalil Mack and Tuli Tuipulotu and Joey Bosa and Bud Dupree. I think in the secondary, they've had injuries. Asante Samuel Jr. is on injury reserve. Christian Fulton missed some time. So for a long span, Bobby, they were running 2 fifth-round rookies at starting corner, right? Cam Hart and Tarheeb Still, and the boat just kept chugging along. So I think I'm eager to see what they do. Christian Fulton will be back, like you said. But yeah, I said on another show, I think that, and you guys probably know this stat, right? It's like if Derrick Henry, what is it? If he gets less than 15 carries, they lose or something like that.
Yeah, it's something close to 15. Yeah, there's definitely it's around 15 where and that's that's when you said can they stop Derrick Henry, and it's like probably not, but Todd Monken can.
Right. That's what I was going to say. So if they can, I was saying that if they can find a way to slow Derrick Henry down, which is, nearly impossible, I think they have a shot, because after that, you just got to pray. I don't know if there's really a way to stop Lamar, unless he has a bad night. That's usually, the way to stop him if he's just off that day. But I said, yeah, if you can find a way to slow Derrick Henry down and pray, I think they have a chance defensively. So we'll see. I'm excited to watch it. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate it too. And like Sarah said, Todd Monken can certainly limit Derrick Henry, but you want to know what can limit friggin' Lamar as well? Penalties, and they are dead last in both penalties committed and the yards that those penalties have negated. So should be really interesting coming up on Monday night. Kris, we kept you a little bit longer than anticipated. So thank you for your time. You can be followed on X or Twitter at Kris Rhim1. That's KrisRhim. And please promote anything that you got coming up as well over the next few days leading into primetime.
Oh yeah, appreciate y'all, man. It's great to be on here. I always saw y'all when I was working in Baltimore briefly, so cool to be on here. And I have this week coming up, Jamison Hensley, who covers the Ravens for ESPN. He has a big Harbaugh brothers story that'll lead the ESPN site, and I'll have a story about Justin Herbert and how Jim Harbaugh has pushed him into being a more vocal leader this season. So that'll be on ESPN. Definitely check it out.
Awesome.
And refresh everybody. It was the Sun. You had a cup of coffee at the Sun?
The banner. I had a cup of coffee.
Excuse me.
Okay. Like a month and a half.
Okay. I got you. I was going to say, you know what? You and Oyufusi, man, you guys come in here, you do what you got to do, and you go off to the national side. We're proud of you. Congratulations, and enjoy this one coming up on Monday night, Kris.
Thank you, man. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks,
all right.
Kris.
Kris Rhim for the Chargers perspective of ESPN.
He was cool. I like Kris.
Super cool.
Yeah.
You can go hit him up on Twitter, guys, at Kris Rhim 1, and it's time for our predictions for
Hey,
this
real
one.
quick, before we do that, I just want to see if you can name the former Ravens.
I
Start
was
on the
looking
top.
at it.
Start at the top.
I was looking at it, and I had a couple questions on the staff-wise, but
Okay.
they've
Well,
got
start
you got
left.
Joe Ortiz.
There you go.
You got Greg Roman. You got Hayden Hurst.
Wait.
You got Gus
No,
Edwards.
no. We got to go in order so we don't get lost.
Well,
Just go top row.
I was going
Joe
the ones that I
Ortiz.
know, Miss Bossy. I was going the ones that I know. Okay, so first of all, whose head's being covered?
It looks like Cassie.
Okay.
Jerigo.
Okay, she's not on the Chargers staff. Okay.
No, she's not.
Last time I checked, she's part of the Ravens media. Okay, so
They
that
did
means
not
far
spill
right.
The Ravens social media point person. Yeah.
Far
right.
right top is somebody who his name is on the tip of my tongue because his father is a coach as well, correct?
He's in the front office.
Okay, what's his name top right?
Chad Alexander. He's their assistant GM. He was a longtime scout here in Baltimore.
Okay, wouldn't have gotten that one.
Yeah, that one's tough.
In the middle, below Chad, I also don't know who that is with the glasses.
That's Mark Trestman.
Okay, should have known that one, but never met him, never was around him. Blue polo left. Who is that?
He's the look-alike to Greg Roman, offensive line coach for the Chargers, Mike Devlin.
Okay, yep. He had
that photo that people were like, "What, is Greg back?" Yeah,
absolutely. Now in the purple, who is that? A Ravens? That's a former Ravens player. Who is that?
Yeah, that was hold on, because I cheated. Sam Mustipher.
Oh wow, that's Sam.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Sam was such a brief time last year.
Yeah.
I felt like we didn't even get a look at what he looked like. So Sam Mustipher, he's originally from Baltimore. He's in the middle there. Right of him, I recognize his face, but you got to help me out with the name.
That's their tight ends coach, Andy Bischoff.
Okay, and Bradley Bozeman to his right, or to his left, technically. J.K. Dobbins, Greg Roman, Hayden Hurst. Who's below Hayden?
He's another tight end.
No.
Does that help?
Well, meaning tucked below Hayden.
Yes.
He's a tight end?
He was a tight end. He caught a couple touchdowns kind of out of nowhere. Eric Tomlinson.
Oh, my. No way. That's Eric Tomlinson right there? I forgot about Eric Tomlinson. I like that guy. Okay. Jesse Minter.
Yep.
Tony Jefferson.
Yep.
Gus. And who's in the middle?
That is Corey. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Kramel. But he's their director of player. Well, I thought he was the analytics guy, but they have him as the director of player personnel strategy. That might be analytics.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
They
just had no shame in taking people from Baltimore. None.
Yeah, I did not know these guys as well as I thought, especially the guys that are behind the scenes. You recognize their names, but I've never even met a lot of these guys up there at the top. So anyway, good exercise that I flunked.
Okay. So predictions. So I get where he's actually coming from with the low scoring game, because remember, we've talked about this. The one time that an NFC opponent has beat the Lamar Jackson era Ravens is when Wink Martindale was over there. He knew Lamar because he'd been here. Jesse Minter on staff for a long time here in Baltimore, including while Lamar was here. So I think that will help. And they haven't had to deal with Lamar and Henry, but like we said, you gotta use Henry. So I think that's gonna hurt. Plus, they are number 1 in points per game on defense allowed.
Scoring, yeah, number 1 defensive scoring. Yep.
Right. So they've only allowed 14.5 points per game. And Bobby, we're heading into week 12, so that's not like anomalies there.
Yeah.
So, but everywhere else, I feel like the Chargers, at least in their rankings, are kind of average. I feel like Kris said that, since they're bye, Justin's been playing better and all that. And I know it's going to be emotional. So I think it's going to be pretty close. I don't think this is going to be like put your feet up and feel comfortable kind of situation. Here we go. Here's why I'm going to have the Ravens edging out. I hope that the Ravens use the Chargers' emotions against them, which is what the Chiefs and Steelers have done against the Ravens. Like, become the bigger bully, but do it smartly. Now that's hard to do knowing that the Ravens are number 1 in penalties, which is just terrible. Okay, but there's the big brother part of this. There's the Ravens need to bounce back in a big way part of this. And then there's the primetime element, okay, which is that Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh have just been phenomenal in primetime. Under John Harbaugh since 2008, the Ravens have the number 1 record in primetime. And then you can like look at all these stats. Like there's so many things that they're in the top 5 in terms of, whether it's scoring or opponents scoring, rushing, completion percentage, turnover margin, all of it. Like Ravens just play well when the lights are bright and they're the only show for the nation to watch. I also feel like it's going to be interesting. It's hard to say who knowing each other is it going to be like a leg up for. I think that's kind of going to be a wash, and it's going to come down to the players. Like as much as we talk about Greg Roman and the brothers and all that kind of stuff, it's going to come down to execution. Like you got to clean up the penalties. You got to clean up the turnovers that we saw last week. But Bobby, if the Pittsburgh Steelers, if what really stopped the Ravens against the Pittsburgh Steelers was these constant penalties, putting them behind the sticks and turnovers, which you got to give the Steelers credit, but a big part of that was the Ravens shooting themselves in the foot. I feel like if the Ravens stop doing that, they can totally win this and be in control. Just if they will. So I'm still going to take the Ravens. I'm going 28. Usually they're in the 30s, right? I'm going to go 28 because it is a lot of Jesse Minter and former Ravens over there. To 24.
Okay. It's always one of those tough weeks when you have Monday Night Football out there and there's injuries involved on both teams, especially Khalil Mack on their side and McConkey to Chris's point. And then most notable of them all is Roquan Smith from a Baltimore perspective. But hey, this is what we're doing. We're predicting on Friday. I'm going Ravens 31-24. I referenced the statistic earlier on in the week that in games coming off a loss throughout his career, Lamar is a staggering 17-4. There's that. There's the primetime element that you mentioned as well, but there's also what just happened last night that's in their minds. They understand that they can crawl within a half game of Pittsburgh. And this is where you start to kind of turn the crystal ball around and start to control things and put it in your own destiny down the stretch. You know how much of a gauntlet it is for Pittsburgh in terms of their AFC North divisional opponents and just the strength of schedule as it is down the stretch. And you know how much of a hole the Bengals have put themselves in as well through 11 weeks. So there's that element of it. And then there's some of what we discussed with Kris from a football perspective. And that is, can the Ravens get the Chargers out of their kind of comfort zone defensively, which is the too high safety look. That's the strategy that they've deployed. You can do so by dominating the trenches and controlling the time of possession through the run game. Both teams are going to attempt to do that. It's going to be a power struggle. It's going to be so much fun to watch. Does Dobbins really have that extra giddy up like so many feel? And can the King truly be utilized throughout a 4-quarter performance along with Lamar as his running mate? Aside from that, this Chargers defensive front, based on some of the film and the study and the research that I've done for this show, Sarah, they're going to deploy a ton of stunts, some twists, and I think Lamar is not going to have a whole lot of time to process and go through his reads. If that ends up being the case, I like the quick passing game, striking across the middle to Mark Andrews, getting Zay involved, right? Getting Zay involved in some bubble screens, getting Derrick Henry involved in the passing game as well, in the flat if it's there, check downs, taking those layups. And I think the Ravens find a way to win. Los Angeles time, of course, it's going to be a traveling across. That's always usually disadvantage to the road team. That's what the Ravens are going to try to go up and overcome. 31-24 coming up on Monday night.
31-24. That's a pretty big win.
Now, we've mentioned the penalties, and people are mad at me for mentioning the penalties in the comment section.
Why?
Bottom line is they're 32nd in two categories you do not want to be in through this sample size of the year. 11 weeks, 32nd in penalties committed, 32nd in the yards that those penalties have negated. And as John said earlier in the week at the podium, that is what's holding them back offensively. You want to know who agrees with them? Mr. Jon Gruden. And why don't you share what you have up on here before I cue up what John had to say
Gruden
about
first.
this.
You teed him up well. Go ahead.
Here he is.
And balance, but I think the last 2 games, they have really irritated me with their slow starts. Against the Bengals, I kept waiting. Come on, let's go, guys. I was telling that to myself. I'm sure they're saying the same thing. Against the Steelers, they had some penalties early in the game. They really have to get started faster. And I think that's critical for their defense as well. Get a lead and play with the lead and make somebody chase you. Very important that the Ravens eliminate the penalties. We talked about it at the very beginning. They're number 1 in the league in penalties. It's ridiculous. Over 90 penalties. A lot of these penalties have come on offense. I mean, their left guard, McCary, has 10 penalties. 10! Their left tackle is one of my favorite tackles in the league, Ronnie Stanley. He's got 9 penalties. And their right guard, Fa'alele, he's got 5 penalties. Now, if you're the offensive line coach, you probably say, hey, they're pissing me off. We got to get rid of the penalties. All right, 14 holding penalties between those 3 men. That's like giving up 14 sacks. Let me tell you, those are 10-yard penalties. And don't you hate when the referee, he gets on there with his biceps hanging out and says, holding, and he points out your name, and then he marches the yards off. It's like he's looking at, hey, Gruden. I freaking hate that. They got to get rid of the penalties.
Oh,
Really?
Sarah.
Really
They've
spoken
got-
like a man who's been there before.
They've got 3 offensive linemen in the top 10 offensive penalty category of all players league-wide. Patrick McCary leads the way. Ronnie and Fa'alele tied for 3rd. It's not good enough, and it's putting them in 1st and 20 situations, early down, long distance situations like John Harbaugh referenced earlier in the year, earlier in the week. And sure, they have the offense to overcome it, but after a while, that becomes exhausting and not sustainable.
Well, what's crazy with McCary, like 6 of his 10 are like the holding calls. Like, yes, there's some tricky stuff with, an illegal man downfield that he still has to clean that up. But my goodness, 6 holdings. Stanley has 4 holdings. It's bananas.
Yep.
So, and here's what's also crazy. Ken McCusick pointed this out. So prior to this year, in his whole career, now obviously he's been kind of in and out and been in different positions, so he may not be out there for every single snap, but I feel like McCary's played a good amount of football. Okay. He's played 2,959 snaps prior to this year. Of those basically 3,000 snaps, he's had 15 penalties. So that's 1 flag for every 197 snaps. Then you come into 2024, he's got 12 penalties, Bobby, which is just 3 less than his entire career.
Yep.
And that's on 681 snaps. That's 1 flag for every 56 snaps. It's almost triple the frequency.
Yep.
Triple, quadruple. It's almost
almost
quadruple
more than that.
Because 50, it's almost quadrupled the frequency. Yeah, there he is. The 2024 penalty rate is 348% of his prior career.
Ken's
Like,
crunching
what?
the numbers nobody wants to see or read, but you have to. It's the reality.
I've said this a million times. We're looking ugly in the eye. We got to call out McCary. We got to call out Stanley. We got to call out Fa'alele. Get a little noisy so that they can be motivated to hush the noise. But it's up to them to do that.
Hey, I'll throw this out there too quickly. I exchanged DMs with Jon Gruden, who's
You did.
big media guy right now. He's just signed with Barstool. He's got this fantastic YouTube channel that's growing quickly, and maybe, just maybe, starting to see his name floating around in the next head coach cycle for this offseason. So anyway, he agreed to come on the show. I asked him to come on. I DM'd him. I've been sharing a lot of those clips because I've been watching them when he breaks down the Ravens, which he's done a couple times already this year. He goes, Bobby, I'd love to. Okay. Well, we'd love to have you on. So anyway, I reached out and asked him, invited him on Monday. Let's see what happens. Knock on wood. As far as number 14.
So Kyle Hamilton yesterday was at presser, and I thought he had a lot of insightful quotes that we should run through real quick before we get to quick hits and close out. But we've discussed, obviously, his change in responsibilities. being not so close to the line of scrimmage last week against the Steelers and being more of a deep safety. He was asked how he feels about that. And he says, look, in college, even starting in high school and in the league, I've always seen myself as a safety, a versatile one. But at the end of the day, I play safety. So if they ask me to play safety, that's not an issue with me. Like he just like broke it down so easily. Like, yeah, guys, I'm a safety. I can go back to doing that a little bit more. But Bobby, he's got the most coverage snaps, 407, without allowing a touchdown. And what's let that soak in, because think about how many times this Ravens defense has just blown coverages. How many times have we seen different receivers just getting over our heads and getting into the end zone? I mean, the defense is number 32 against the pass. And this man right here has not given up a single one of those touchdowns.
And what we see last week, we saw continuity, and there wasn't a coincidence because of him and Ardarius Washington being together, providing the coverage that the middle part, level 2, Rowe and Trenton so desperately needed and probably were calling for in their minds, or maybe even in meeting rooms, you never know, in the weeks that were previous. Kyle also said he's been wearing the green dot on his helmet all season in practice. So if Roquan cannot go on Monday night, he said he'd be comfortable relaying the defensive calls if asked. So good contingency planning for the Ravens, obviously, just in case, on an emergency case scenario. And then you were on top of Kyle's glowing remarks about Ardarius, his new running mate, like I just mentioned, the former undrafted rookie, who now, moving forward, is going to be, at least for the time being, the starting deep safety alongside Kyle.
In my 3 years, he says here, Ardarius Washington has been one of the most resilient people on the team. He's had injuries, times where he wasn't in the rotation. He's just been super consistent ever since I've been here. To see him get an opportunity and see him excel, he's not just back there. He's back there making plays and doing his job at a super high level. I'm super happy for him, and I'm thankful that I get to play next to somebody like that, somebody who's as much of a professional as he is, close quote. Now, sometimes when people get compliments, everybody else is like, oh, well, if you're giving him that compliment, it means you're not giving it to Marcus Williams. And I don't know anything like that, but I do know that was glowing, that in a way he towers over Ardarius Washington in size, but in a way he looks up to him in terms of like just constantly having setbacks. You have injuries. You're only plugged in here and there. You're never seen as the guy. And he just never puts his head down and whines. And in Kyle Hamilton's words, he's just been a complete professional. And so that's really cool that he's able to witness that. And for all of us too, just as a reminder that it's like things may not go your way for years. Like it's been years now that Ardarius Washington has been fighting through stuff. And he's got his opportunity. I love this for him. And I love how much Kyle gave him that shout out. Clearly admiration. Still hard to believe Kyle's just 23 years young and clearly this defensive leader, the guy that folks look to, an all-pro caliber player, and Jon Gruden agrees with all that and more.
Player I think on the Raven defense is number 14, Kyle Hamilton. Keep an eye on Hamilton. He'll play safety in their base defense. When they want to go to their big nickel, he'll be the nickel back around the line of scrimmage. And then he'll play linebacker in their dime package. He will knock your ass off. His playing style is impressive. He competes his butt off. I love him. He's got 81 tackles, 2 sacks. He can blitz up the gut. He can blitz off the edge. He can get off blocks and knock your ass down. I love him.
I love what Michael had to say in the live chat as well. Michael says Kyle Hamilton was born to be a Raven. He could play in any era. And that's just so true with the way he's an old school thumper in this new school football era that we're all watching right now. And the Ravens are certainly better for it that they spent a 14th overall draft pick on a safety, which they received a lot of criticism about. They're looking pretty darn smart a few years later, aren't they?
Let me give you a play. A single play that epitomizes the dog inside the ribs x-ray, okay? The dog that is Kyle Hamilton, as shown by Baldy.
I'm watching Kyle Hamilton in the final minute of this game. Like, this guy's just a warrior. He's an unbelievable player. He's obviously hurt. He's been hurt. That ankle has been bad. He's been on and off the field. But here he is in the final minute of the game. He ain't coming out. Like, here it is. They got a chance right here in the fourth quarter to get the ball back. And as bad as that ankle is, here he comes. Justin Fields running. There's Kyle Hamilton. You know he's hurting. But that's a warrior right there, man. Did not want to come off the field. Was staying out there to the end.
That was like, I didn't realize that was him that made Justin Fields slide a little bit early. Like, everybody was like, whoa, Fields, you slid early. Now you put your team in a 3rd and 1. They ended up converting. But it's like when you see Kyle Hamilton coming down, even after you saw him limping back to his spot, hopping on one foot, when that dog's coming at you, you might make a business decision and slide a yard early.
Wherever he is, his sheer presence just affects the game any given play. So to see him, he did pop up on the injury report, but again, if he's working his butt off, and you say obviously, but it's not even the ankle, it's the neck, and it's like the ankle's the dude is literally less than 2 weeks removed from an ankle sprain, and he's not even popping up on the injury report for that. And he's a full participant with a neck. But it's just another indication that this guy, his mental toughness, the fortitude, the physicality, the consistency, he's so level-headed with the media, so wise beyond his years at 23. He really is a unicorn. Nelson Aguilar is on this list with an illness. He was a DNP on Thursday. Justice Hill popped up, and he is in concussion protocol. He had the Guardian over his helmet, the Guardian cap, so not sure where he is in that protocol, but that'll be one to watch. And if he can't go, perhaps Rasheen Ali gets the call up. Justice was limited on Thursday. Maybe that's a good sign. He wasn't a DNP. I'm sorry?
Keaton would get more carries.
Keaton as well would obviously, you would think, get more entrenched in the game plan. Travis Jones, can't stress this one enough. He was a DNP with an ankle. It literally feels like for over a month now. This dude's just been hobbling around, trying to get that ankle right, and having a tough time while doing so. So that'll be one to watch going into the
Ravens
weekend.
Need him. Matabike is better with Travis in there.
Their interior rush is just different without Big Travis, the 3rd-year player out of UConn. Sanusi Kane with an ankle. He was a DNP. Remember, he left Pittsburgh with a walking boot and crutches. Arthur Maulette continues to struggle with that calf that popped up, and he had a walking boot on last week, couldn't play against his former team, and now not a great start to his week leading into Monday night. Adafe was a full participant with a neck, and Roquan, more so than anybody else, is one that you got to watch and watch closely with that hamstring. He was a DNP. John Harbaugh did mention that he is working toward the game. He's not been ruled out yet, but again, that was on Thursday, which is technically a Wednesday. They got 2 more practices, including today and tomorrow, Sarah, before not hitting the road, but hitting the sky for Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, we'll see. They've got time. So anybody that was a DNP, they got time to come back. And obviously John Harbaugh and Roquan Smith, who's dealing with that hamstring. He's trying to send the message out to LA that Roquan Smith is working hard to get healthy. He's not ruled out by any stretch. He's working toward the game. Bobby, I feel like that's more of a message for the Chargers than for the fans, because usually when he goes that hard, it kind of makes me actually more doubtful that Roquan. I'm not saying that Roquan's not going to play, but when he's trying to let the other team know that they have to prepare for him, he's trying to get any sort of advantage possible in case he can't go.
He was immediately ruled out of that one around the 10-minute mark after leaving Sunday in Pittsburgh in the 4th quarter with that hamstring. Quick hits before we jump. Thank you guys for being here. Over 2,600 of you joining us concurrently. We will have the game preview episode coming up tomorrow, which you just listened to if you were a part of the live stream. But if you wanted to listen to it again, or if you're just tuning in now, that will live as a separate video coming up over the weekend.
Okay, a couple quick hits. We've seen out at practice, thanks to video from Karita Parks, Bowie TV, is one Derrick Henry throwing just throwing a pass here to Lamar. Let me see that again. He's got a spiral to that. Lamar just.
Does anybody find this exciting?
Oh, stop it. I do.
Sarah, you find this exciting right here?
I don't know.
They're playing pitch and catch.
I don't know why you're poo-pooing it.
It's like everybody was freaking out as if it was like a play design, I felt like, on social.
Out?
They're just
freaking out or
playing.
noting it. You are
They're
such a Debbie Downer.
They're just playing pitch and catch.
Just let us have fun
Look
with
at these
Derrick
two.
Henry throwing a ball to Lamar, both of them effortless. And I would like to submit this could be a fun trick play. Okay,
Julian,
yeah,
they better
I
use it.
just want
Use
chat
what?
to know that Bobby did his hardest to cut this out of today's program, and I went hard for it. And now here you are poo-pooing it.
It's so.
Look, we've
Julian.
seen Derrick. Listen, Derrick Henry's thrown touchdown passes before in games, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Not in
stop
Baltimore.
it. Yeah, he's been in Baltimore for 11 weeks.
Julian.
Are you dead set against a play where Derrick Henry throws a pass to Lamar?
Sarah, it's nothing remotely close to a play. Is my point.
Obviously,
Julian's saying
it's
use
not.
it.
This is a warm up. Did I say it was a play? Would they
Julian
be
is
posting it right now if it were a play?
Julian is saying use it in the game. There's nothing to use. They're playing pitch and catch. It's just like
Use their talents, not the actual. You are reading. You're the one who's freaking out about it. You said other people were. You, Bobby Baltimore, are the one freaking out about it because we're all noting that it's fun that we see Henry throwing a fun pitch and catch to Lamar. Obviously not a play because the media's not even allowed there during the times that they put in the offense. I'm just saying it could be fun for Todd Monken to consider it.
Okay.
You're so, yeah. Debbie Downer over here. On to the next quick hit.
Yes.
Why don't you Debbie Downer this one too? Lamar Jackson showing off his customized Ravens jacket.
You see what they got on, man. My boy. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what he walked into Pittsburgh with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing's clean. Look at this thing.
Okay, now we got Bobby happy. Okay.
I mean, how could you not? These two things, it's night and day. It's one, yawn, and two, this thing's filthy.
My gosh.
I mean, this is a jacket right here. Absolutely.
It's nice. Just like that little fun throw to Henry. They were both nice, smooth,
I'm telling
smooth.
It's gonna be fireworks on this Friday, guys. Don't you feel it? Let's go. What other quick hits we got? Harbs.
Yeah, Harbs doing what Harbaughs do.
Building each
Harbaugh
other
said
up.
of Jim, one of the best coaches of this generation. I'd believe that even if he weren't my brother. To be honest, he's actually right on this one. They've been gassing up their players and all that kind of stuff, but I actually do think about what Jim's done. He turned around Michigan that was drowning forever, got a national championship over there. He went to the Super Bowl but lost to his older brother, and now he's in LA. He's completely turned around that franchise. I mean, Kris just talked about how they've been known as I don't know what the words he was, but it's like the pretty guys in nice uniforms, and they've brought toughness. And I actually think of this generation, I think Jim Harbaugh is one of the best coaches. Kind of true, right?
All I know is that I watched an incredible piece that everybody should, if you're a fan of football and a fan of football families and faith and everything in between, which I know you are, by ESPN that was narrated by Adam Schefter. It was a Harbaugh classic. I mean, it was Jack and Jackie involved in this piece. It was Jim and John sitting down together. It was going back to Iowa, going back to the Western Kentucky days, going back to Jim and John having to draw the line down the middle of the room. Like it was really, I thought, a heartfelt piece, 20 minutes worth of content leading into Monday night. And Jack and Jackie are American treasures. These two are national treasures. And now they get to watch chapter 3, which, as both Harbaughs have talked about, the kids, it's tricky. These weeks are tricky for them. You know, it's the Harbaugh Bowl nationally, but internally within that family, it's kind of like, it's conflicting. So, yeah, it was a really nice piece.
One last thing. I forgot to bring the video in, but I'll share my screen. Just as we head into Thanksgiving, wanted to just highlight what Lamar is grateful for.
Great health, family, been in the National Football League. Thank God first, that's no brainer. But you guys, man, I appreciate y'all, man. I just love life. I'm thankful for life.
All right, just great to listen to people being grateful. Grateful. He had it all ready. Health, family, God, teammates, the media, life. It's good to be grateful.
Certainly. Super chats. We're grateful for those. 12 of
Oh,
them
I'm
today.
grateful for this one.
Olu says, Bobby has been a Debbie Downer forever. Thank you, Sarah, for keeping us upbeat and locked in. LOL. But seriously, Debbie Downer?
I just want you to know
Amazing.
you play into this stuff, okay? Because
I do not.
First of all,
I'm telling you
yes,
exactly how I feel.
No, but listen, let me tell you why you play into this stuff. You literally said at the top of the show, I love the drama coming out of Pittsburgh. You said that.
Of the game itself.
I know,
Yeah.
but you don't like it when you would. I'm just saying, you don't want to be known as the drama guy. Then don't say you love the drama. That's number one. Number two, you're like accusing people of freaking out over enjoying a fun little video of Henry throwing the ball to Lamar when everybody knows it wasn't an actual play. So you play into it yourself.
I literally can't even. The in-game dramatics of last night's game was magical with the snow coming down, Pickens going after Newsome.
Oh, I agree.
Turnovers, AFC North football. Spoiler alert on the line. I love it. I love that drama.
Sure. I'm just saying, you don't like the word associated with you, then don't use it.
Tongsley loves us. Whatever we're doing, they love it. Tongsley loves us. We love you, Tongsley. You always drop in generous donations.
Yeah, look at that orange super chat. I love it.
You got to love when that pops up. Hot Dad writes, old Bobby the Bummer coming out on this fantastic Friday. I love how I got to read. I'm choosing to read these, but old Bobby the Bummer coming out on this fantastic Friday. By the way, I took a spelling class, so Bobby can't tell me for not being able to spell.
Uh-oh.
Oh, did I get after you previously?
I'd be happy to read these.
Oh, I know you would. Now I'm definitely going to read them.
Bummer coming out.
Now I'm definitely going to read them. Did I get after Hot Dad for his spelling within the last week or so? Maybe. I don't know. Sorry if I did, Hot Dad. Hope you're hot. Tinsei says Dion for head coach. Humble, competent, unlike Broadbaugh. Here we are building up the Hardballs, and Tinsei comes in and says, we want Dion instead. Dream says, anyone else giving up on Derrick Henry breaking the record? Yeah, probably. That was more of like a 3 week ago thing that we were walking.
Like a Jamal Lewis, like 300-yard game to get back in on pace.
3 weeks ago was looking for Dickerson. Dickerson was probably shaking in his boots about 3 weeks ago, but not anymore. Dreams also writes, I don't want to hear anything else about the Ravens losing to a last place team anymore this season. This is how the North games always turn out.
Yep.
Joe Jenkins writes, yeah, it's so true. Honestly, I didn't mean to skip past that one. This is so true. Good stuff.
And it's not just the AFC North. Like honestly, whenever like the Broncos or the Raiders are playing the Chiefs, I'm like, they have a better shot than most people that go up against them. Like it's division opponents. It's what happens.
Hayden Hurst wasn't a castaway, Joe Jenkins writes. He wanted to trade because of lack of playing time and targets. We traded him to Atlanta.
That's true.
And I believe the Ravens ended up acquiring J.K. courtesy of that trade and courtesy of Atlanta's second rounder, if memory serves.
That's correct.
Maggie writes, I always cheer for Justin Herbert because he was an Oregon Duck, but not Monday night. That's all Ravens. P.S. Thank you, Browns, for last night. Ocean says to Lamar, Giro was like the bad breakup with the girlfriend. And we are fully caught up, which means we got to give some love to our patrons.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Saxey and Big Fesh 927. Thank you both for believing in what we're building. We appreciate you guys for taking part in being members of the Vault Patreon community. Thank you for all the support. We appreciate you for all that. It is the bedrock of our channel and goes a long way to what Sarah and I do on a daily basis. And we are coming up on a big milestone, 20,000 subscriptions. Let me get a refresh to see where we're at after this stream. Have we closed in on the 300 category yet? No. Okay. 19,654. Would love to hit that before the end of the month. Can we do it? We'll see.
If the Ravens listen, this was a tough week. This was a tough week. I'm actually the chat. All of you who have been here every single day since that Ravens Pittsburgh loss, bless your hearts, because when I tell you that traffic has sunk, and it's not just after losing, because we've had a lot of traffic, say after the Kansas City game or even the Raiders game, like we've had a lot of traffic, but against that Pittsburgh one, I'm telling you, on YouTube, on Twitter, everywhere, tons of people checked out. And so just want to give a shout out to the chat and the daily listeners that keep powering through.
That's a real thing. And that it doesn't go unnoticed. I mean, that's a real thing for us. Just the fact that you guys continue to be loyal through thick and thin. There's been plenty of both of those things throughout the course of this season. And yeah, I echo those comments, Sarah, and we appreciate you for being here with us on this Friday. So again, it is a little different. Coordinators speak later today. So next time Sarah and I'll be with you is Monday for a lunch hour live stream. That means we get to watch the slate of games. Hopefully you guys are maybe you're starting travels for holiday purposes. If that's the case, please stay safe, enjoy yourselves, and be on the lookout for a couple episodes that are dropping in short form over the course of the next 24 hours, including our official game preview episode. Good reminders is that we'll always have repurposed content of these live streams in the audio only spaces. So maybe you're hitting the road north, south, east, west, wherever you're going in the air for Thanksgiving, and you don't want to pull up YouTube, you can always do so through Apple, Spotify, Google Play. The Vault is always available to you in all of those platforms. So on your way out, if you haven't already done so, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell on your way out. It looks like the first reporter's tweet as we close here from a practice standpoint is that Roquan for a second straight day is not seen out on the practice field. So, that's not a surprise, but it is one that we're going to be watching going into the weekend. Linderbaum, Adafe.
That's a new one.
Excuse me?
Tyler Linderbaum's a new one.
Yes. Linderbaum, Owe, Roquan, Sanusi, and Mollett. So no surprises aside from Linderbaum. We also don't know what the significance is of any of that. So just be on the lookout going into the weekend. Obviously, Roquan would be a big loss to the Ravens' middle part of that defense. As we close, thanks as always for being with us. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Friday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. As always, we appreciate you for hanging with us. Thank you for joining us here inside the Vault, and we'll talk to you on Monday, if not before.